Welcome back to a round 4 game of GP Caracas. This time it's Splashcat versus Zangy. Splashcat is playing 5-color Dreamsight with Fair of the Star Skipper as a first mate. A very interesting deck. No idea if it's actually good or not, but it is very spicy, I guess. And with using Fair, you can, since you're running a Dreamsight deck, you can play way more cards, so then you find room for cards of each color pair, so that you can play Veer as a first mate. Splashcat starts the game with turn 1 Thriving Budling, and Splashcat gets to turn 2 Recall Forgotten Aeons. Again, turn 2 for Recall Forgotten Aeons is basically always good, because you draw cards and you get to play in more lands. It helps you keep ramping. And Zane is on Ninjas, as always. A deck that looks to use Monument of the Fallen Man in combination with cards like Shinrei or Suzume in order to put in 2 drops with ETB effects at instant speed and then bounce them and then keep replaying them. It also has a way of locking down an opponent during draw step by instant speeding creature like Garen Pickpocket, which makes your opponent discard on ETB. And then you can use either Suzume or Shinrei to get that card back to your hand and then play it, and then you use Monument of the Fallen Man to play it to play a draw step again, and then you just do it each turn, and your opponent's draw step locked. So Splashcat gets Void Portal down. I think Void Portal is probably one of the better cards in their deck because Splashcat's running so many cards in their deck, so having a way to tutor for stuff is really good. And Void Portal basically each turn you get to transmute one of your cards. And Splashcat also has Dreamsight well in hand, so they're looking pretty good here. It's up to Zangy to find a way to stop Splashcat. But Splashcat does seem pretty far ahead right now. Just because they have 5 mana in play. Or 5 rainbow mana, in fact. No, it's not rainbow mana because Thriving Budling can't make white because Splashcat doesn't have a white land yet. It seems like Splashcat is going to Void Portal the stand unassailable, fetching a Pithwelt, and then if they get to Pithwelt, the Monument to the Fallen Man. Zangy's going to tap Monument and put in Coralite Paladin, which allows them to fetch up another Monument. Let's see if, well, Splashcat will be able to Void Portal again next turn and probably fetch another Pithwelt. Thriving Budling doesn't get the counter, even though Splashcat spent 5 mana, because Splashcat doesn't have a white land, and Thriving Budling only makes colors that a land you control can produce. Then he plays another Monument. Probably looking to drop Shinrei off the Monument. Splashcat draws another land. Still not a white land, but they're just going to Dreamsight well. And that's a huge injection of value for Splashcat. Can't really beat Dreamsight well decks in value because they have a 2-mana draw 5 their deck. And with Void Portal out, Splashcat can just keep searching for Dreamsight wells. So it's up to Zangy to win the game before Splashcat can make use of all the value that they're getting. But I don't think Zangy has the ability to do something like that because one of the ways for ninjas to win is to keep bouncing their discard creatures and make your opponent run out of cards. But Splashcat's not going to run out of cards now that they've played one Dreamsight and they're in a position to transmute for another. They do draw a bunch of lands though. Splashcat also Valdez's Zangy, but then Zane's entirely 2 drops, so yeah. And they're gonna dump Transnaturalist because I guess Splashcat doesn't really run that many creatures. Splashcat plays Flooded Depths tapped, probably fetching a white land next turn so that they can get all 5 colors of mana. And they're going to transmute the negate, I think. Probably for another Dreamsight well. I guess they can also search a way to kill artifacts. They don't have Pithwelt mana up though. I wonder what they're going to fetch this time. Splashcat's going to fetch Obscuriate. Huh. But that's a pretty strange choice. I guess they're just fetching it now so that they can have something to use on wherever Zane's playing down off the Monument. But Solar Flare also answers all of Zane's creatures just as well. Okay, and yeah, Shinrei gets dropped down from Monument, and Splashcat's probably just going to remove it right away. Using Obscuriate. And yeah, Zangy sacks it in response. Zangy values the Shinrei and Yard more than an extra land that pings them each turn, and doesn't even make the colors of mana that they need, because a lot of Zangy's creatures require specific colors of mana. So Zangy does go up to 4 lands now. but they can't really do much. They can use Monument to drop in one of their 2 drops, and then I guess the Shinra can also do stuff. I think what Zang's probably looking to do is get Gear and Pickpocket into play, and then oh no, they're going to ninjutsu the Corelight Paladin because Splashcat's tapped out. So yeah, and they get to use Shinra to bring back a Shinra to their hand. Okay, that's quite good. I think that really punished Splashcat tapping out there. I don't think Splashcat's really even in a bad position now because they still have just so much value. They can search for a Dreamsight well by discarding Solar Flare. And then Veer's also coming down, and that lets them recast something each turn. Okay, Gear and Pocket comes down. Splashcat's just gonna pitch a land. They don't really care about Zane drawing cards because Splashcat has so much more late game value than Zangy. And Splashcat's probably fetching for a white land. I guess Resplendent Substratum. And they draw another land. So usually this many land draws would be a death sentence for a normal deck, but Splashcat can play Veer and then use Veer to replay a Dreamsight well. But they're going to just Solar Flare first and kill this Shinra. Zane can just sack the Shinra to itself to prevent Splashcat from gaining life from that, though. And Splashcat's going to play out Valdez. Huh. Why is Splashcat not playing Veer right now? Are they keeping Veer to Void Portal? Or are they just afraid that Veer is going to get removed or answered? Because does they have any removal in their deck that can hit Veer? No, not really. All they can really do is bounce it with Transnaturalist. So yeah, it's strange that Splashcat played in this way. And Splashcat's going to play Mirror Gate named Coastal Dominion. I don't think that does what you want it to do because, yeah. No, Zane is going to drop Shinra off the Monument to the Fallen Man. And suddenly I feel like the game isn't as over as it should have been. I feel like Splashcat definitely could have played the game better because they should be they should have way more advantage right now. Or they should be in a way better position right now. I mean, it doesn't really matter because Splashcat can just play Veer and then recast Dreamsight well whenever they want, and that should be enough value to just refuel. And yeah, Splashcat realizing that Mirror Gate doesn't really do anything by naming Coastal Dominion because all their other lands also tap for that colors. They were going to play Mirror Gate. They'd probably be better served naming an untapped land because that forces that land to come to play tapped. So Zane drops Sworn Cohort and sacks Sworn Cohort to Shinra in order to search for a legendary. Actually, yeah, that's a pretty good combination. I didn't realize that the deck had that combo built into it. I guess that's why it's running Sworn Cohort as Shinra sack fodder. I'm assuming Zane is gonna fetch for Suzume here. Oh, no, they're gonna fetch Orichi instead. Are they just gonna keep up Orichi as a way to protect against removal? I feel like they probably would. They probably are. So Shinra hits Splashcat and gets to bring back something again. And Garen Pickpocket comes down, makes Splashcat discard another land. So somehow Splashcat has less cards in the hand than Zangy, even though they've already played a Dreamsight well. But even in this position, I don't think Splashcat's losing because they can just play Veer and play Dreamsight, and that probably gets Splashcat back to the game. They can't really burn Splashcat out because they're only chipping in for 2 damage per turn. And Splashcat draws another land. Yeah, they've been drawing an abnormally high number of lands. But Splashcat is finally going to play out Veer and probably play Dreamsight off that. Zangy's thinking, what can Zangy actually drop in at instant speed to stop the Veer? Like, okay, the best they can do is Transnaturalist to bounce Veer, but Splashcat has priority before that, so they do get an opportunity to play something. And Splashcat decides to Pith Bolt instead. Does Splashcat not have Dreamsight Well in the graveyard? No, they have Dreamsight Well in the graveyard. Why haven't they played it yet? Okay, so they're going to flash in Coralight paladin and use it to fetch another monument, I guess. You're not actually going to Transnaturalist. Oh, okay, yeah, I guess that's because the Transnaturalist, then they're not going to have Monument up next turn, because Coralight tutors it to the top of the deck. It doesn't actually tutor it to your hand, so you need to Coralight now in order to put the Monument on top so you can draw it for next turn. And then Zane can probably sorcery speed the Transnaturalist to bounce the Veer. Okay, and Splashcat names Anzan with the Mirror Gate, which turns off the Anzan, and oh yeah, Zane can no longer make blue mana now. But that's actually quite huge because it means Zane can't main phase, can't hardcast Transnaturalist. If they want to main phase Transnaturalist, they have to do it with the Monument. Splashcat attacks with Valdez, and I guess Zane's deciding whether to block or not. Zane decides to trade for Valdez. Splashcat taps the Thriving Budling. Thriving Budling's getting really huge now. And now Zane wants to balance Thriving Budling and Veer, but they don't have blue mana. So it seems like Zane is going to sack the Shinrei, hit Splashcat, and then bring back something. You're going to pick up your Pickpocket. I guess probably hard cast it at sorcery speed, because otherwise they're not doing anything else with the mana. Actually, how many copies of Anzan does Zangy run? You only run one copy, so if they ran 2 copies, they could have brought back the Sworn Cohort and then sacked it to Shinrei and then used it to fetch the second Anzan. But now that they don't, actually, they also have Many Voice Tower in their deck, so they could have done the same trick to fetch Many Voice Tower, and that would give them blue mana from Mirror Gate, I think. Anyways, Garen Pickpocket, then he's going to hardcast Garen Pickpocket at sorcery speed, get the last card of Splashcat's hand, which does happen to be a land, and that draws Zane into a blue land, so now Zane has blue mana again. And now they think about whether to hardcast the Transnaturalist right now. Zane's just going to hardcast Transnaturalist and bounce the Veer. Doesn't actually stop Splashcat though, because they can just replay Veer and then a card from their graveyard. Or they can just top deck Dreamsight well. That also works. Splashcat's going to play out Veer again, and seems like so they can either Dreamsight well or we have a bunch of options. We're going to Monument in the Orichi, I guess. And they're going to Orichi the Shinrei, I guess, to protect it from sorcery speed removal. Problem is that all Splashcats, well, okay, Veer is only active on your turn, so that does protect Shinrei against sorcery speed removal. Or actually, no, it doesn't, because Shinrei can come at the end. Shinrei comes at during end step, and then Splashcat can just blast it then. I think Splashcat needs to cast Dreamsight Well now, so they're going to Dreamsight Well. Not the one from Graveyard. Huh. I feel like they probably should have used... Yeah, they should have used Veer and cast the Dreamsight Well in their Graveyard, because Veer might not be in play next turn, but Dreamsight Well is still probably going to be in their hand. So they draw a hand that has some counter spells and a glitch. Glitch is probably coming down next turn. Those Splashcat can, I guess they can play Flooded Depth. And Splashcat can probably play a removal spell at the end of turn with Veer to kill the Shinrei that's coming in. And then I think Zangy will be out of options by then because they have no way of getting the Shinrei back. They're going... Oh right, they still have Void Portal in play. They can just transmute it to negate. What do they look for? Oh, it's probably going to be removal. They're going to fetch Solar Flare. Okay. Then they get Solar Flare and end of turn on the Shinrei. Going to attack with the 6/7 Thriving Budling. Wait, so that means Splashcat isn't going to Solar Flare. Oh, okay, never mind. You're right. Thriving Budling untaps due to Augmented, so Splashcat can just untap Thriving Budling and then Solar Flare the Shinrei end of turn. Now that Shinrei's back and Thriving Budling's untapped, Splashcat can Solar Flare the Shinrei. And Zane can sack the Shinrei again to prevent Splashcat from gaining life off the Solar Flare. So, I think Splashcat has a game back in their control now. They draw Suzume. That's a really good draw for them. And they can use Suzume to start doing shenanigans. So Suzume with Transnaturalists will be able to bounce Splashcat's entire board. And that puts Splashcat in a pretty dangerous position. You're going to bounce Scare and Pickpocket first. Oh yeah, I guess that makes sense. But now they Garen Pickpocket first. Probably hits a Cursory Glance. Yeah. And then they get to play Transnaturalist. Bouncing the Veer, probably. And the next turn they get to, or during Splashcat's upkeep, they get to bounce Transnaturalist and then Monument it in to bounce the Striving Budling. Splashcat draws another Thriving Budling. And Zangy isn't going to upkeep use the Transnaturalist. So maybe they're looking to Transnaturalist the Veer. And then they're just going to trump block the Thriving Budling. Splashcat going to replay the Veer and then start recasting stuff from their graveyard. But in response, they bounce to the Transnaturalist. Well, they still can't bounce Veer before Splashcat gets priority. I mean, I guess they can limit Veer to only casting one spell, but oh, they're going to cast Solar Flare. And Transnaturalist comes in and bounces the Suzume. So I guess that's so they can either bounce Veer to prevent Splashcat from casting any other spells this turn, or they can bounce Suzume to save it. I feel like they should probably bounce Suzume here. Although Splashcat has Death Spell in the graveyard, right? Or no, they don't. They already cast the second. Oh yeah, they already cast the second copy, so they're going to Transnaturalist to Suzume. And they're going to cast another spell from the graveyard. Another Solar Flare. Okay, yeah, so that will kill Suzume. So Zangy's in trouble once again. And Splashcat ends the turn, putting even more counters on Thriving Budling. Now Thriving Budling's a one-shot. Zangy draws another land. Plays Garen Pickpocket. Splashcat ditches Thriving Budling. I think the game's over now because Zangy can't really come back from Splashcat having so much value. Splashcat draws Singularity Grasp, which would have been pretty good earlier, but now doesn't really matter that much. So what can they recast with Veer? Bunch of Dreamsight Wells, maybe? So they're going to Singularity's Grasp, which will kill their own Thriving Budling that they've spent so long building up. But I guess also wipes Zangy's board entirely, so prevents them from ever recovering, and Zangy's going to concede. Look at the sideboard though. Splashcat's running a Dreamsight deck, so sideboard probably doesn't matter that much. I guess they have Void Portal to tutor for stuff. I'm not sure what they're going to bring in, if anything. Meanwhile, Zangy probably just brings in a lot of the anti-spell hate, so Darley, Hypnotist, and then Forbidden Treasure. Actually, Journey's End to answer the creatures. So game 2. Splashcat is going to first mate the Veer. It's a hand that doesn't really have any early game. Well, they have Valdez, but Valdez isn't really good against Ninjas because Ninjas is all 2-drops. I think Splashcat keeps anyways because they have removal and discard, and yeah. Meanwhile, Zangy has a pretty decent hand on a multi-6. They have Monument, and they have Voiceless Assailant and Suzume. And Correlate Paladin to fetch a backup Monument in case it gets discarded or anything. Splashcat most of 5. Oh. Oh, okay, they have Dreamsight well, so yeah, of course they're keeping. And is Splashcat going to first mate? And no, they're not going to first mate. So Zangy goes for turn 1 Gleaming River, fetch a trial land probably. And Splashcat has turn 1 Cosmic Sinkhole. Or I mean turn 2 turn 1's Cosmic Sinkhole, but on the draw. So they get to counter Zangy's Monument if Zangy decides to go for that. And yeah, Zangy is going to go for that, so Splashcat gets to Cosmic Sinkhole a Monument on turn 2. And that's really good for Splashcat. At least Zangy has Correlate Paladin to fetch another Monument. Splashcat gets Cane Dancer, so Cane Dancer can flashback Dreamsight well. And Splashcat's just going to play Dreamsight well. No questions asked, it's draw 5, it's good. And they're going to put Veer back into their deck. And yeah, they draw 5 cards. somehow drawing still a lot of lands. Well, they have King Dancer on Dreamsight well, so they can draw more cards later if they want. They will have to discard to hand size, but they can just pitch from the lands. Then he draws Voiceless Assailant, so it's not very good for them because you really don't want to draw your Voiceless Assailants before you fetch them out. I'm assuming Zangy's going to just Rollight Paladin and put another monument on top. At the same time, they don't really have anything to do with monument. You could put in a bunch of 2/1s into play with monument, I guess. And they're going to Corlight Paladin to put monument on top of their deck. Splashcat doesn't actually have anything to do on turn 3 unless they want to King Dancer back the Dreamsight well at end of turn. So I guess that's something they could do. Then they'll have a bunch of cards next turn. So Splashcat draws another land. Yeah, they're definitely drawing a lot of lands. Way more lands than they should be drawing, I feel like. Splashcat's going to play a fetch land tapped, because yeah, they don't have any 3-drops. Zane draws the Monument Fallen Man that they topped last turn. I think they're just going to hardcast it right now. Do they want to play around counter spells? Okay, so they are trying to play around counter spells. But unfortunately for them, Splashcat doesn't have any counter spells. Splashcat didn't decide to end up turn King Dancer to Dreamsight well. I feel like they maybe should have done that, because Splashcat's hand has way too many lands, so even if they have to discard to hand size later, they can just pitch a bunch of lands. I think now Splashcat might just want to Conjure Eyes for something that does stuff. Well, actually, right, they might be setting up for a Restot's command combo. Splashcat's going to Conjure Eyes, yeah. What do they fetch, I wonder? They might fetch something that ramps them, because then they get to do the Dreamsight while Restot's command combo next turn. And yeah, that's exactly what they're going to do. They're going to Conjure Eyes for a Recall Forgotten Aeon so that they can put in an extra land this turn. And the next turn they they get their 6th land in, and then they play King Dancer, flashback Dreamsight well, and then play Restot's command. The Restot's command, choosing modes 1 and 2, will let Splashcat discard their hand and draw a bunch of cards, and then Restot's command's second mode deals damage to each opponent equal to the number of cards you drew this turn. So with Dreamsight well plus the first mode of Restot's command, you probably draw enough cards to just one-shot your opponent. Then you're putting in the Monument of the Fallen Man. But unfortunately, none of those cards really stop the Restot's command combo. And yeah, Zangy's tapped out. I don't think they can really monument in anything that protects them against the Restot's command combo. So Splashcat's just going to go for it and win the game that way. So King Dancer, flashing back, Dreamsight well. Drawing Splashcat 5 cards. And then Restot's command, allowing Splashcat to draw 10 more cards, and then one-shotting Zangy. And yeah, that's the game. So Dreamsight well can't act as just a big value deck, but this version also packs a combo finish with Dreamsight well plus Restot's command, dealing upwards of 30 damage to the player.